Hello, my name is Ghostbones, and yes, the ghost is in fact in love with the bones. I tried really hard to like Agents of Mayhem. I really did. On paper, it sounded pretty goddamn good based on my tastes and interests. I thought the recent Saints games were at least a good time, and I do enjoy the idea of a story-driven hero shooter. However, in the end, the best way I can sum up Agents of Mayhem is half-baked. The good news is that you can tell if you're going to like Agents of Mayhem by the end of the first mission. It drops you right in to explain the broad mechanics, how every character has their basic attack, a couple other abilities, and an ultimate move. With this knowledge, you'll clear out a base of the Wicked Legion, and then do that like 30 more times and then the game ends. I'm being a bit hyperbolic, but in all honesty, the game has almost no mission variety. What passes for a mission is simply a handful of open-world activities tossed together with a hint of new dialogue. It's a bit like the loyalty missions from Saints Row, but without any of the character, fun, or sense of completion. And this bleeds into another issue of the game. Seoul seems like a pretty cool city, but Agents of Mayhem does everything in its power to keep you from ever really engaging with it. The game spends no effort making the open world likable or interactable, to the degree that even completing activities holds no bearing on the city itself. No matter how many times you do the same thing on your own or in missions, it's never checked off or permanently done. And to make matters worse, the vast majority of missions are in a pretty closed area, or like the opening of the game, just set in the underground corridors of Legion. It feels like it has an open world just because that was his Saints Row thing. And I think that's the marker of Agents of Mayhem's greatest flaw. It never knows what it wants to be, so it never goes all the way with anything. It has an open world, but it's afraid to let you really engage with it. It has driving, but it never extends beyond just moving kind of faster than normal. It has abilities, but they all feel impotent and insubstantial. The game very quickly falls into the cycle of driving for a minute, starting a mission, following the same objectives, and then fighting through near identical corridors. While the first few hours are arcadey fun, I felt like I was forcing myself to finish the game by the second sitting. 4.5. As soon as you start the game, you're greeted with a fun 2D animation, almost akin to a Saturday morning cartoon. It's fun and a great way to set tone and aesthetic, but as is a running theme with the game, it never actually goes anywhere. Sure, the same style of cutscene returns here and there, but they're scattered scarcely throughout, and few match the quality of the opening one. It's entirely a surface level thing. The game screams, "Look, it's like episodes of a corny cartoon," but fails to ever actually capture that sense. What you get instead is a painfully generic, painfully underdeveloped story. It's about the team of good guys working together to stop the evil mastermind and his minions from taking over the world, and it never goes beyond that. If I sound harsh, it's because I'm frustrated. This game had so much potential, and it capitalizes on none of it. By the end of the game, I was honest to God role-playing my own story because I felt no connection to the narrative or most of its characters. There's no reason to get invested in any of the NPCs or villains, and some of the heroes fall pretty short. There were just so many odd choices here. Why introduce this huge agency and its enigmatic leader out of the blue without actually exploring any of it? I mean, Agents of Mayhem universe and basic introduction was already established with one of the endings of Gat Outta Hell, where Johnny Gat and his friends are now cops and have just made contact with Persephone Brimstone after she turns herself in, presumably after leaving Legion. It even leaves the perfect narrative excuse for the roster of heroes and gives a much more superhero feel to the characters, rather than working for some half-baked, underdeveloped, never-explored generic agency. They're being recruited by this ragtag team trying to save Seoul from this massive evil organization. But maybe that's just me. I mean, to be fair, subjective is in the title, to be fair. Still, that's a big aside. But regardless of other story alternatives, you never feel like a part of the story that's there, or like your actions are doing much to shape it. The only decent writing is spread pretty thin and comes in the form of character missions. Unsurprisingly, these are missions centered around one character or a specific group that fleshes out their backstory and motivation a little. While these still face a lot of the gameplay issues mentioned above, it's easily the best writing of the game. The second Oni mission, Aiko's story, stands out among the rest to me. In it, you play as the hero Oni fighting his way up a building under construction to face his rival, all while listening to narration from his kidnapped child. It's short, but it's a fun fight, and it feels sweet and genuine.
You must have thought that was real funny, because he laughed, then he said something like that.
Oh, and like real quick, I honestly forgot to write about it, but the game's humor isn't good, it's bad. I'd say really Johnny Gat's writing is the only consistently good and redeeming narrative quality, and he's DLC and from another IP, so take that as you will. 4.5. These next two sections will be brief, but I do want to touch on them. If there's one thing Agents of Mayhem gets right, it's voice acting. While the writing can be subpar, all of the performers do their best with it and help save some of it. Real quick, I just want to highlight a few of my favorites, though it's heavily skewed based upon who I spent the most time playing as. Arif S. Kinshin as Kingpin, Sharon Muthu as Scheherazade, Matthew Yang King as Oni, Misty Lee as Daisy, and of course the phenomenal Daniel Day Kim as Johnny Gat. Unfortunately, the game does little else with its audio to wow. The music is painfully generic, and the radio from Saints Row and countless other open world games is gone. The sound effects are sufficient, but don't wow. Except for the car sounds. The car sounds make me want to die. Just listen. Listen.
Right to awards.
Even for just that little bit, it's headache-inducing. Luckily enough, it's rarely a major factor, and the voice acting is genuinely enough to elevate the score significantly. 7 out of 10. Graphically, the game is alright, but I think that reflects a lot of the design choices elsewhere. The game has a semi-stylized look to it, which is alright, but it keeps the game from being something special. It lacks the true style or bold choices seen in a lot of other hero shooters, like the bombastic colorfulness of something like Gigantic or the hard HD of Lawbreakers. And I think a move to a more stylized visual look would have genuinely helped give the overall tone a little bit more to stand on. That aside, the game does have some nice design in almost every area. Characters are visually distinct and interesting. Future Soul does have a really cool aesthetic, and effects like explosions or status effect Rs are clear and vibrant. Like I said, the game is visually alright, but I think that's the biggest disappointment. It's just alright. 7 out of 10. Agents of Mayhem is a game I really honestly wanted to like. It's bright and colorful, has a cast of fairly interesting if sometimes underdeveloped characters, and has a ton of LGBTQ representation. But at the end of the day, I can forgive bad writing, or I can forgive bad game experience. But when both are combined, it gets a lot harder to find merit in a game, personally. If I've sounded a bit harsh in this review, it's because this game could have been so much better. Volition has done better. The genre has done better. And so much of that betterness is clearly just out of reach for the entire game. With Battleborn losing support priority, there's a space in the hero shooter market for a story-driven or single-player content game. But Agents of Mayhem falls short of filling that spot. Thank you all so much for watching. This was the first foray into subjective reviews for me, and I know it's far from perfect. Feedback is super appreciated, both your thoughts on the game and the video itself. If you like the video, likes are super appreciated, you know the whole deal. And this has been a long time coming, I apologize for that. But as always, until next time, beautiful people.